Right, good morning. Welcome to LAPADA Social Media Webinar Session 2. Thanks for joining us. Those of you who were attending the Instagram session last week, I hope that was useful. I hope you managed to put some of that into practice. If we have time for any extra questions at the end, we can also come back to Instagram. And I think at the end of the series, we'll also do a wash up where we can kind of share any learnings and anything that we're still trying to work through. So today is about Facebook, which is the behemoth of social media, as you all will be very well aware. As a result, it's sort of almost become the institution and has lots of problems that have come with that responsibility, particularly because there's so much of people's data that they're using, and we're going to look at how to use that in positive, hopefully, and beneficial ways, both for consumers, your customers, and indeed for people themselves. It's my sort of firm belief, still, that if data is used, in a responsible and meaningful way, actually targeting people, with interesting opportunities, and even products, is much better, than the previous advertising paradigm, where essentially it was just scattergun and what we would consider spamming these days, with no control over who sees what message. So we're going to go through some of those opportunities for targeting the right people for your businesses this morning, as well as looking at the sort of basics of how Facebook works generally. As with last week, you've got the opportunity to ask questions as we go, and I'll try and remember to drop back to this. Unfortunately, I can't see it all in the same window, bear with me. That does mean we might need to jump around a little bit as we did last week, but this week we can do it all on desktop, which is much better, obviously. Having said that, we always need to bear in mind that the majority of people will be spending the majority of their social media time on their mobile phones these days, as I'm sure you will experience yourselves. So just to start off with a little bit of data. Facebook is the biggest by a long way. I don't know how well you can see that graph there. This is globally, but echoes UK usage very closely. Depending on the data that you are looking at, YouTube can actually come very close. So if it's things like your time spent, content consumed, or even sometimes active users, YouTube and Facebook can be neck and neck. But YouTube obviously is sort of very different usage, which much more passive, browsing video content, obviously. And whilst it does have interactive and even social networking capabilities, mostly it's a passive platform. So in terms of where we're looking to actively engage our audiences and talk to them for meaningful relationships with them, Facebook is the place to go. Now, having said that, let's see if I find the right graph here. The audience on Facebook is older, than other platforms. So last week we were talking about Instagram, which is very much sort of dominated by millennials and Generation Z as well. Facebook here, actually, it's 25 to 34-year-olds, are the biggest group, but they are the biggest group on all platforms. And actually what you are seeing is that whilst they are still active on Facebook, they are going there more for transactional information, to make sure they're not missing out on anything, events that are happening or conversations and content that isn't being shared to the other platforms, but they are spending more of their time, on Instagram, on YouTube, and the likes of Snapchat. So actually, you are getting more exposure to older audiences within Facebook. And what you see is that almost all UK active internet users are also using Facebook, as part of that experience, and many of them using it, for an hour, 2 hours a day. So spending a lot of time on this platform still. So the opportunities there are vast, to get your content in front of people, but also to convert, that exposure, the awareness that you might generate, through something being shared by someone who already has a relationship with you, or indeed an ad placement, as we'll look at shortly. So that's the biggest opportunity, is that opportunity to both extend your customers, extend the relationship, with your customers, but also bring in new customers as a result, and so creating brand awareness, for either your business as a whole, or for specific products, events, exhibitions, and so on, and then building that relationship, deepening the understanding, and then also converting your customers into advocates, which has always been a key part of social media. So that's all actually just one half of the reason to be doing this, and the other half is that it's acting as social proof for people who might be coming across your business in other means. Finding an article online, just stumbling across your website through Google searches, and what they are likely to then do these days is to go on to your social media to check your credibility, to check that you have a community there, that people are engaging with you, and that people are saying good things, in particular in the reviews, but also in reaction to the content that you are posting. So whilst you might quite often be seeing small numbers of people being exposed to each post, unless you are supporting it with paid media, and small numbers of people engaging with posts, unless you have a very large profile. That's not to say it's not having an important role to play in your overall marketing and communications strategy, because there is that sort of dark side to the web, not dark because it's negative, but dark because you can't see it, of people that are just dropping in, seeing things, and then basing a judgment on that, as to whether or not to come and visit you, to come to an exhibition, or even to commit to a purchase that they have been considering. So that social proof value for me is the most important. So all right, got some chats already. Thanks, guys. He says, there we go. You couldn't see the graph. You can only see me. Okay, sorry. All right, well, I haven't shown you very much so far. So that's where I was fiddling about with it earlier, wasn't it? Sorry, you might also be able to hear the dulcet tones of my 18-month-old daughter playing the xylophone. Perils of working from home. I hope it's going well for you. Okay, so we're just going to go back to that graph just so you can see that dominance of Facebook. So say that's globally. So Facebook, yeah, the top line. Again, as with last week, we'll share the links to these afterwards. So don't feel like you're missing out on the detail. And then, yeah, that's the profile of the advertising audience. So yeah, as you can see, 25 to 34-year-olds, the biggest audience, but then actually significant audiences. These are still large numbers when you think that the overall pool is 45 million. Those are still big numbers of people that you can reach. All right, just jump back to see if there are any other. Okay, There's nothing come through on the Q&A, so sorry. There we go. Hoped it was an antique clock. Yes, indeed. We might well have an antique clock coming up. We'll see. So I'm just going to put that down there so actually I can keep an eye on it. I'm up here, so hopefully you can keep an eye on me. Do let me know if anyone's having a problem seeing anything still, but hopefully that's the screen share now done. Right. Actually, what I wanted to look at first of all was just the anatomy of Facebook itself. Again, I'm sure most or all of you are very cognizant of the way it works. But just thinking about it, in terms of your potential customers, there's a lot going on here, and there's a lot of opportunities to get in front of people. Where you are these days, paying to promote your posts, or doing full-scale ads, the majority of the time that's actually coming up in the feed, and that's what Facebook has done extremely well. Is actually integrate sponsored posts with organic posts. This also has been partially responsible for a decline, as we say, like the younger audiences not necessarily leaving Facebook but spending less time on Facebook, because there's more paid for content on there, and it integrates slightly less well with the organic content that you might see on Instagram stories, say. But this is why it's especially important, to not just be interesting, but to be human, and to make sure that your content is nicely designed, and stands out. It's also important to remember what you can see down the left hand side, which is that it's not just the content that's coming through from pages and from individual feeds. It's communities talking together in groups, and actually there are some very engaged antiques Facebook groups. People are looking for information about things that they have found, are looking to sell, or indeed offering their expertise. So that is also a good space to be putting things. And then this event section is also really important. So if you have got an upcoming launch, exhibition, or even just drinks, or a special invitation, to come and visit your store for any reason, making that into a Facebook event gives you much more exposure, because people have the opportunity to sign up to it. Again, you have the social proof, and then you have the reminders going out. So just before we move off this and onto a brand page, the other thing that gets you really good exposure is stories. So most of these stories will have been created within Instagram, as we were talking about last week, and then just shared to Facebook at the same time. So there is actually just that opportunity to tap the button that says also share to Facebook. It's coming up across the top. They're going to continue pushing it because they're trying to grow their stories audience, trying to get older demographics in particular using stories, and trying to get more exposure for the stories that their brands are creating. So that's really good opportunity. And then also, as we talked about last week, live video is one of the few things these days that gives a notification out to the majority of your fans. So again, as I'm sure you're aware, like Facebook has essentially been shrinking the pipe over the last 7-8 years. So whereas years ago it used to be that you would reach a significant proportion of the fans that you have built up, just with every post, or certainly with a week's worth of posts. Facebook has decreased that exposure, partially in order to try and keep it as the majority of personal content flowing through, and partially because they want brands to pay for it, which on one level seems quite cynical, and on another level feels fair enough. They are a business. So yeah, here we are on Francis Bacon page. Just to again look at this and make sure that you're taking care of the most important things. So the cover image, obviously the biggest real estate that you've got on there, and the most impactful. So making sure that you've got both nicely designed asset that can be a short video, equally as much as images, but also something that feels relevant. So I believe this image is one of the paintings that's on show at the exhibition in Houston at the moment, that's moved over from Paris. So you're making sure that it's kept up to date, it's refreshed. Most of the time, your profile image should be your logo, because that's what is shown across any assets that are then shared outside of your page. So you want to make sure that that is clearly your brand, your business, so that where that is shared, you are getting that brand recognition, and hopefully then the opportunity for people to click through and see more about you. Most people don't visit, but actually what you have got as part of that about section these days is something called Our Story, and Our Story is a really nice opportunity to actually tell your story, and try and in one or two paragraphs just convince a first-time visitor that you are a business with credibility, with interest value, and that's offering both the insights but also the content, or indeed the products that they might be interested in. And actually, so there's a couple of nice examples here. I'm just going to jump to the antique jewelry company. So the antique jewelry company, their story is so nice that it actually made me realize that we needed to improve one or two of ours. So yeah, just using that first line, which has got that sort of bigger font, standout presence. So London-based family jewelry business with 50 years in antique jewelry trade. Unrivaled access to high quality and extensive collection, etc. So it's just got their objectives, in very accessible language, there, and just stating out, exactly what their brand mission is. We do not deal in reproductions or imitations. You can be assured, of the quality and authenticity. And then they go into the types of products, Georgian, Victorian, Edwardian, Art Deco, and so on. So yeah, I just thought that was nicely done, put together, and actually now that you do have that there, you're right at the top of the page, your people are more likely to explore it, and that's one of your first opportunities to convince. Equally, you've also got the reviews there, sort of slightly smaller space, but this is really important as part of that social proof exercise, obviously. It's very important that these reviews are genuine, authentic from your customers. But having said that, you are also well within your rights, to ask the customers that you have good relationships with, to leave you a review. Not just on Facebook, but on Google, via Yelp, and so on. So that is an important thing to do. It doesn't need to be a huge number. But just to make sure that you have some there, and that you are guaranteeing that at least some of them are from people that appreciate what you have to offer. So we're just trying to see if we can load some of their content. Your Facebook obviously is very heavy your website, so you might have experienced this in the past as well, particularly when trying to run web conferencing software at the same time. Or maybe come back to that. Looking at the old cinema, which again, not got a massive community there, but doing everything really nicely. And what they've also got here, is the shop items. So again, shop is very easy, straightforward to set up. It's literally there, in your left-hand navigation bar. If you haven't set one up yet, you literally just click on it, and Facebook will talk you through step by step, how to upload some of your key products. And again, this isn't just about directly selling. This is also, about showcasing, just providing, some of your potentially most aspirational products, that then give people a feel, for clicking through to more of the products, or indeed, coming to see you in store. So that's really important. And then the other thing that they've activated is a simple chatbot. So while Facebook engagement has been plateauing because it's a very mature platform here, instant messenger has still been going up, alongside WhatsApp, and that's one of the biggest trends of the last 2-3 years is actually people moving a lot of their social interactions into private spaces. So what this is doing is then moving your relationship potentially, into that chat space. And it's also allowing customers to very easily ask things. So this has been set up, with 2 very simple questions that you can start with, or indeed you can enter free type. So can you recommend something for me? How much do your products cost? So 2 of their most frequent questions and answers, obviously. And then the chatbot will either be automated if it's got the right information, to respond to a question, or it will funnel through to you to alert you that you have had a question that you can then jump on as quickly as possible. I say as quickly as possible. So Facebook's metric is actually within the day, within 24 hours. So they will also base their responsiveness. So yeah, there is somewhere on there, just how quickly that people are likely to get back to you, which is just another validifier, of your business, how well you are engaged, with your customers by responding to them. And then, as part of that about section, just making sure that all of your kind of logistical information is up to date is important. So what we call the hygiene content. Again, just like with Instagram, you'll see here that even on my desktop, the fact that this is a portrait image rather than a landscape image means that it's taking up more space there. Less important when you're actually on the brand's page, but if you're on the feed, that's just getting more opportunity, to get them to consider, taking a deeper look. The other thing that we have got here is a lot of hashtags. Hashtags are used on Facebook, but much less commonly in terms of consumer behavior. So what we would tend to do, as we said last week, is have at least 10, 15 hashtags on Instagram. On Facebook, we will have 1 or 2. And a lot of the time that will be our own hashtag, or indeed, if it is something like antique shop, art exhibition, art gallery, that people might be searching for in the Discover area, then that might help you get exposure. But people are not browsing Facebook for inspiration and for new brands in the same way as they are Instagram, apart from on Facebook Watch. So just going back to our homepage, so that. So Facebook Watch is Facebook's attempt to compete with YouTube. So Facebook has been investing in video for a long time. And they were the ones that sort of pushed these sort of very, very quick videos, in particular from brands. They were saying, if you can't get it across in 10 seconds, then it's not worth doing, because most people are just scrolling straight past, this stuff. They've actually now changed their minds on that. And so Facebook is now prioritizing video that is 3 minutes long and longer. So not all the time, obviously, but if, again, there is something interesting that you have to say about something, like we were talking about with Instagram last week. If you are doing a walkthrough of a new exhibition, if you are doing a talkthrough of a particular period, particular artist or craftsman, you're actually going 3-4 minutes and above can get you increased exposure on Facebook Watch. Having said that, a lot of this is the slightly spammy viral content that actually is detrimental, to overall kind of Facebook and wider social media engagement. It kind of hooks you in, but it's that kind of donuts style content that doesn't leave you feeling very good after you've just wasted 10-15 minutes or indeed more on it. That's not to say that you can't take advantage of it, because if you've got relevant content being shown to relevant people, this is a space that people are spending more time. And the other thing that you can do within here, so this is where you will get shown if you do go live, but you can also do a premiere. So a premiere will then also get more exposure through being announced to your community. So the premiere is just going live for the first time without it necessarily being a live video. So just showing that for the first time, and then that will become a normal video that can be watched on your page like any other. So perhaps some sort of deeper, more interesting artistic, and craft-led content, would be good to raise the level of the Facebook watch areas. We see the level is quite low there. Still not getting any content there, but it's also nice, good-looking close-ups of product, or indeed showing the context within the gallery or shop experience. Just checking my list. Just one thing that I didn't mention was the algorithm. So something that's much talked about, and is kind of a little bit kind of Wizard of Oz, behind the curtain, in that Facebook are relatively coy in terms of exactly how their algorithm works, and they are constantly tweaking it. So for example, suddenly deciding that they are going to prioritize 3-minute videos over videos that are 10 to 20 seconds, is a big jump, and they do tell you about it, but they don't say how important that is or what happens then to the shorter videos, which are still key to advertising, and for making sure you're making the most of people's short attention spans. What is absolutely clear is that the algorithm is fed by engagement, and almost it doesn't matter how many fans you've got on your page. What is important is that those fans are engaging, or at least some of your fans are engaging. And the way you do that, along with having good content and having good customers and converting customers, actually, so making sure that there is some kind of POS, some kind of call to action, in other materials, be that POS in your shop, be that on the bottom of your emails, certainly on any e-newsletters, as we'll come to in the last session that we do, pushing people who are already engaged with you to then also commit to a social media relationship, is a key thing to do, because the more engaged people you have responding to your content, the more likely they are to see your future content, but also the more likely Facebook is to show that to other people. Just making sure that where possible people are engaging with your content, actually helps you to reach those other people out there that are friends with, contacts of those people already in your community, or as we come on to now, or are being reached through targeted ads. Okay. That's not actually, yes, that is where I want to start. Sorry, I just have made the actual ad names very small to not reveal too much actual information here. Roman, this is where we come into the audience targeting section. This is where proper Facebook ads are run. You do also have the opportunity to just boost a post from your page. That is fine if you're doing simple targeting. Then you're literally just going to the boost button, and then selecting a basic audience that might be your community and their networks, or might just be people who are aged 30 to 55, with an interest in antiques. So that kind of simple targeting, just with a post getting out there within boosted posts. So just hitting that boost button, and then you can get an ad up and running within 2 to 3 minutes. So if it's just quick activations, just saying, okay, this is an interesting post, that's relevant to our community, as we come into spring, or as we talk about dealing with COVID-19 and moving to browsing and shopping behaviors online. You're just getting a quick boost out there, to make sure that your content is seen by more people, and as I said, drives up the engagement. Facebook doesn't care if that engagement is organic or paid; they just care about seeing the engagement. Actually, sorry, that's not true. So Facebook does care in terms of the organic engagement, and that will then show it organically to more people. But overall, when it's then reviewing your activity, it doesn't care. It just wants to see those engagements. So in terms of your presence, paid is as important as organic. And as I said, as they shrunk down that pipe, you typically now will get an exposure of 3 to 4%. Of your Facebook community as a whole, and that's on a good day. And if you've got good engagement levels, it can be as low as 1%, and they've been threatening it moving down to 0. So yeah, running slightly more involved sets of ads both gives you the opportunity to get in front of the right people. But also, as we're going to look at, start to track those people. He says in a non-sinister way, just see who has been exposed to your ads, who have then gone on not just to visit your website, but potentially to do certain actions on your website, to look at certain content, certain pages, and potentially then also to make a purchase. So on a top level, this is Ads Manager. It's within Facebook Business Manager. Can get quite confusing sometimes. So Business Manager is where you set up your overall business. Ads Manager is actually where you just run your ads. If you're struggling to find it at all, literally, if you just type Ads Manager, into the URL bar at the top, if you've been there before, then you will find it. Or indeed a Google search will bring it up, and then you have got the option to run full ads. So the default view is actually campaigns rather than account overview. So account overview is just a snapshot of what you've spent and what total numbers have been. Let me just take a quick look. So there, you can see, so we've got a reach of 1.5 million on this. So reach is the number of people. Impressions is number of people times by number of times they were shown something. So number of opportunities to see, essentially. And then as is often really important, just the link clicks. Not just who has seen something, but what have they done as a result. And ultimately, most of the time, that will be visiting your website, unless you do invest heavily in your Facebook shop. But still, social commerce was heralded as this great, white hope 5 years ago. Instagram, as we talked about last week, does see good responses in terms of people buying things, but what it doesn't see is necessarily that happening on the platform. So within Facebook and Instagram, you can buy within the platform, but still most people will click through to the website as they just they want to see more information. They want to feel that this is a credible environment and brand and business, and generally they just trust more still buying something through the website rather than through social. So those link clicks are the most important thing that you are looking for. So then campaigns is where you get the overview of everything that's been happening. So this is where you set up your campaign each time. So your campaign might be say for the next period. So you might have a spring campaign, or it might be around a specific set of products, or a specific artist launch, for example. So you then hit create in the top left there, and then that will take you through to the next thing that we're going to look at. So we're actually going to just quickly run through setting up an ad. Just to clarify while we're here though, so ad sets here, these are your audiences. This is where you're setting up your different audiences, and Facebook groups its ads by campaign, and then by the audiences being targeted in each campaign, and then by the ads themselves. So click through to the ads, and this would be all of the ads that you're seeing, or indeed, if you're here, or indeed in campaigns, you can just click to see a single thing. So that then just brings up the ads for that particular campaign. So I was trying to find one that actually had more than one. So the other thing that you can do within this, on every one of these pages, you then have the opportunity, if you hover over either the campaign, the ad set, or the ad, you can view charts. So you can just drop in here to how well that is doing. And again, so this one does actually have more than one ad coming through. So you can then compare the performance in terms of your reach, in terms of your spend, and then start to see which are more effective. So this is where the optimization process starts to come in. So we'll come on to that shortly. First of all, what I'm going to do very quickly is just talk you through these different columns. The most important ones, yes, we talked about reach versus impressions. Both of them are important. But then what balances out those two things is the frequency. And so what you want to be doing is making sure that your frequency here, so the number of times each ad has been shown, to each person on average, is not more than 3 or 4 times. Because as you will know from your own experience, if you start to see an ad more than 3 or 4 times, you switch off. But potentially seeing it 2 or 3 times is what you need in order to click through. So that's one of the key things to be keeping an eye on. These are all the kind of logistics of it in terms of budget, spend, how long it's running for, what that schedule looks like, and then you are looking for the results on the right hand side. So reach is very nice, but none of us I believe would be vain enough to really care about how many people ultimately saw something. What we care about is what they did as a result. So here what you have is your link clicks. You've also got something called landing page views. The difference between link clicks and landing page views is that link clicks is just people that literally hit that click, hit that link, click through, and then some of them bounce straight back out again. Whereas a landing page view is someone who actually spent time on that page. So that is the more meaningful metric. And then what it gives you is the cost. And this can vary enormously. And it really depends on what you're selling. If you're talking about high end artwork or iceberg jewelry, obviously you can be spending pounds and pounds on a click. And as long as you've targeted the right people, that can be well worthwhile. Or even tens of pounds, hundreds of pounds, for major products. But generally, if you're talking about lower level, then something between 50 pence, and £1, or even £1.50, is looking very reasonable. That's completely fine. Show you that. Well, we've got it up. That is just picking up one image still. Okay, so when you then click create ad on any of those pages, it takes you through to this. He says it doesn't take you. Right, I'm actually going to do that fresh. Right. So it's going to ask you if you want to add it to an existing campaign, or create a new campaign, which is fairly self-explanatory. I'm just going to drop into the chat. No, so that's still fine. Do ask any questions if anything is not clear. Okay, so the first and most important thing that you need to decide is what your objective is. So on the left, you've got that awareness. As I say, that might be fine for the likes of Coca-Cola, but for us, we want to actually drive business, as a result of our activity. Certainly, traffic, should probably be your most frequent objective. Getting people to your website, and then we'll look at how to get the right people to your website. However, if you are looking to invest more time and budget and trying to drive actual results, looking at conversions is the most powerful thing you can do. Now, what you need to do in order to track conversions is set up the Facebook pixel on your website. Again, if you need to do that, Facebook will talk you through that, and there are lots of setup and help guides to help you do that. It is a piece of code, so if you had someone else build your website, you need to ask them to do it. If you built it yourself, within WordPress, Squarespace, and so on, you should just be able to drop into the back end of that, and then insert that piece of code that they will give you into each page that you want to track traffic through. So once you've chosen that overall objective, you then get a couple of options here. The first is to create a split test. So a split test is where you are running one ad against another, or indeed a whole ad set against another ad set. This is where you might be wanting to test creative. So if you have a hero image of your shop or your latest exhibition, versus you've got a 30-45 second walkthrough, just showing the whole thing. You might want to test which of those performs better. Now, having said that, Facebook will also test it itself. So if we do this second tab button instead, that then says campaign budget optimization. So this is then allowing Facebook to deploy your overall campaign budget where it sees the best results. So if you are not worried about putting equal exposure to either specific audiences or specific products, then campaign budget optimization is the best way to go, because that will then allow Facebook to optimize for you. So that is the simpler way of doing it, rather than doing the split test, which then gives you a short period to test two things, and then you put the majority of spend behind the winner. It's simpler and often more effective to allow Facebook to do that for you, as I say. So that's the first set. So that's the campaign level. So where we saw those three tabs on the overview pages that we were looking at, these then mirror these three here, but all covered within this same section. So you should have given your campaign a name, up front, and then you're going to give your ad set a name. So remember, the ad set is the audience. So we'll just call it Antiques UK for now. You'll see here the conversion. So it's coming up with purchase here. If I click on that, or rather if I kill that, I have different options. Because that pixel has been put on different pages within the website, it doesn't have to be purchase. So purchase is the most meaningful transaction for you, obviously, but actually you'll have more data if you choose something like add to cart, or even looking for a specific page within the website. So viewing specific content that you can set up, or adding to wish list. So those are the two ones where the pixel is actually active. And add to cart, giving you more data will give you more opportunities for Facebook to learn. And that's what you're trying to get, as you say, is for Facebook to start to know, who it is that's actually doing this, clicking through and then adding to cart or making a purchase. Dynamic creative allows them to create different combinations of ads. I wouldn't go into that level of detail. Running an offer you can do through Facebook again, but as I say, most people will be making purchases on your website, so it's actually better to run the offer if you're doing one through your ad copy and just say, okay, you put in promo code XXX when you get to checkout on our website. Right, and then this is the important bit. So audiences. So you have three main sets of audiences that you can choose from. The most powerful audience will always be your custom audiences. Custom audiences are custom because you create them yourself. You create them through existing data that you have got. So creating custom audience. So again, you need that pixel there in order to be tracking stuff. Or indeed, it can be a customer list. So if you have an email database and you have permission to market to those people, then uploading your email list to Facebook gives you another contact point with them. And then it also is giving Facebook some more of this data in order to find more people like that. Again, the most powerful one is likely to be website. And when you go into website, you can start to specify specific things. So websites to the whole site, but also people who visited specific web pages. So if you're sending people through to a specific product, or indeed, a campaign area, an exhibition page, a certain set of products. And you can also, again, sort of bring up add to cart or purchase here. So if you're zeroing in just on those people that have made a purchase in the past, that's the place to do it. And then generally, we're not talking about massive websites with massive visitor numbers. So you want to open up the parameters of this as much as possible. And the maximum is 180 days. And then you can you can build an audience by having more people in here as well. So we could say different sets of pages, different time parameters, and then you need to name your audience here. So that would just be overall website visitors or antique jewelry website visitors. Where you are specifying a certain time period, Facebook will keep that up to date. So when you say 180 days, it will be the last 180 days whenever you use that. And you can also use social media engagement as part of this. So rather than choosing the website visitors, you can choose what's been going on your Facebook page, or indeed Instagram again. So people who have engaged with your page at all, and for that one you can go to the last year. People who have engaged with something specific, so if you have run a specific piece of content in the past, that's where to drop it in. So that also can be a very good thing to do and might be a broader audience than the first one. And you can have as many of these audiences as you want and then duplicate the ads across them. The other thing that Facebook will let you do is create a lookalike audience. The lookalike audience is based on your custom audience, but finding other people out there that have similar interests and behaviors. Some people are very cynical about this. I think it's just an opportunity for Facebook to pretend that they're just getting out there to more people. So it's something to test because it does vary by business and by brand. But it does let you use that existing data and market out to more people. The other thing that you've got to watch, actually, if you are wanting to control what Facebook is doing, is this detailed targeting expansion. So this is basically giving Facebook permission to reach out to more people as it sees fit. This is where it might be necessary to be a bit more cynical, because essentially they are just offering to spend more of your budget and reach more people. Obviously, yeah, you define your budget up front, but if your audience is very small, it might not necessarily all get spent. So that's something you need to keep an eye on. In that overview page is how much of that budget is being pushed through from your budget, your overall campaign budget, or the daily limit that you set if it's ongoing. So then the other thing, then this is where it starts to get interesting, is actually trying to go out there after entirely new people yourselves. So generally specifying, narrowing rather the parameters is generally quite a good thing to do. You want to be fishing in a smaller pool, of more focused people. So just working out, if you've got the data, or you just are getting a sense of, what your typical demographic is. How old they are. Probably keeping on both genders, unless it is something that has a specific appeal to either gender. And then what you want to do, make sure location is appropriate, which most of the time will be UK, but again, you can zero in, here, you literally click that, and then you can choose actually, down to the postcode. But I say that. So where you are entering locations here, which we might say is Islington, to give too much away. They are then putting that as the middle point, on that. So you can literally see there, is actually hitting a 30-mile radius. So it's not that specific. If you're talking about trying to literally reach your neighbours, so that's where you need to start looking at more of these options, and you need to open it out so where it says connections all people. And the other thing to keep an eye on, keeping an eye on your overall audience size. So at the moment, our audience size is 6 million people. So that's obviously very large, and they're not all going to be relevant. So this is where we start to narrow that down. So add a connection type. So the connection type is where you are connecting with people who are connected to your page. So it's actually in that detailed targeting. So where you turned off expand, Facebook open targeting, here you are going in there and starting to look for the people who might be specifically interested. So what you start to do here is start to layer the filters through which you are trying to engage your audience. So antiques, click that, that is still very broad. In fact, somehow ridiculously, that is still counting everyone, it seems. So what we want to do is go to narrow audience. So narrowing audience is saying they have to match this criteria and also this criteria, and they're in with this demographic set of criteria that we set up front as well. And this is where we start to get more specific. And this is where you start to have to play around. As Facebook, again, don't release the full lists of the way they set up their interests or behaviors. So again, just using your initial keyword up front. So we might take then antique furniture here, or even antique trader. So that's looking for people, that you actually are, maybe doing business to business, or have a very high level interest. So that is a good audience to go after. We see here on the right, that's telling us that's got actually just 60,000 people in there. So we could take that as a single filter, and we know that is a specific audience, that we might be interested in targeting. Probably that's potentially too specific. So we're going to say antiques and antique furniture. So immediately that has dropped down to 400,000 people. And then you say, so if you are spending, 50, £75, on a post, which is a perfectly legitimate amount, then you're probably reaching, 100, 150,000 people. So you're trying to match up the amount that you're wanting to spend roughly with that pool size, because then you're not wasting any of your budget reaching out to people who are outside of specific interests. So I'm just going to go and narrow that down a little bit further. I'm just going to try Edwardian again and see if that comes up. Yeah, so we do actually have Edwardian era in there. So whilst we didn't have Edwardian antiques, we can combine an interest in antiques, antique furniture, and Edwardian times. And then we've dropped that down to 190,000 people. So that's starting to be a pretty focused group of people to get in front of, particularly then when we're creating nice relevant content for that. So then you go to the bottom here, you save that audience, and then that audience has automatically been added to that ad set. So we'll do that. So we call that Edwardian Antiques London. Okay, and we save that down. Right, so then I'm going to speed up a little bit because we don't want to go over the hour too much. So you then are saying where this ad is going to be placed. This is actually an area where it can be quite good to leave it up to Facebook. So automatic placements will then let Facebook show it across Facebook, across Instagram, even if you don't have a profile, and the Facebook Audience Network. The Facebook Audience Network is this proliferation of websites, just like Google has relationships with. Facebook is essentially placing ads on third-party sites. And again, they're very coy about this. They don't tell you they're necessarily doing that. So if you do not want to be pushed out to the wider web for any reason, do click on manual, or if you want to control where your ad is being seen. As again, depending on the format of the content that you're uploading, it might well not work so look so good within Instagram stories, for example. So you can literally turn off and on. So we turn off the audience network. Up to you. Depends how much trust you want to be putting in Facebook at this point, and also something you can test. Messengers, I say, actually ads can be placed within Messenger, and Instagram. And then within each of those, you can start to specify, so no, I don't want it, within Facebook Marketplace because that's just not the right customer base, for us. I don't want it in the right-hand column because I don't think it's going to perform very well. But again, if it isn't, then it probably just won't get shown there very much. And then stories, as I say, in particular, is quite a different format as we looked at last week. So if it is a small landscape image, that might not necessarily show up so well within stories. But they will, unless you go in and create your own within here, which is actually a lot clunkier than doing it within Instagram. They will just top and tail it with the copy that you have put in there. So there's all sorts of options in there that you can choose or not. And then down the bottom here, it's saying run ad continuously if you just want to be supporting your shop as a whole, or gallery, or setting a start and end date if you're doing a specific piece of activity. Right, we've then dropped into that final set, which is the ad itself. And this does take quite a lot of playing around. As I say, even if you're not doing the split test up front, it can be good to use different formats here and see which performs best. And then you can literally just turn off or turn on the ad that is doing better or doing less well within that overview. Literally the bar on the left will allow you to do that. Carousel can be quite good if you've got a range of products or art pieces to show. Single image, or video, as I say, is good because it just is simple, and if it's good content, will capture people's attention. And then collection is actually where you'll start to create a shop experience, within ads. And again, it's a little bit more complicated. It will talk you through that process. We don't have time today. And then literally you're adding your media, and then you have just got a couple of options on the left-hand side here. So primary text is the main copy, like the post copy as it comes up, but then you will also have a bit of headline, a bit of copy, that goes underneath the ad and that goes with the URL. This needs to be very short, pithy, but it's worth having in there because, again, you don't know where, with that scant amount of time you have your ad in front of someone, whether they are going to focus on the main body of copy or actually just flick to that call to action at the bottom, in your headline, or the description where you might say put your offer, or the reason why people should click through. You add the website URL. You want to have a specific deep link here most of the time, rather than dropping people on the homepage. And then you actually change what that display link is shown as. So if it's a very long URL, you can simplify it within display link. And then finally, call to action. Learn more if you are promising an educational experience, rather than just directly selling, or indeed shop now, or contact us. If it's a high-end item, you think they're going to want to find out more information about it, or indeed just learn more means explore more, and is a slightly softer sell, so can work. Then finally, branded content. So we talked a little bit about influencers last week, and we will at the end of this webinar series come back to them. But if you are working with a third party, tagging them in here in this, so that anyone knows that this is a branded paid for relationship. Both is necessary, legally, but also it allows them to very easily share that content themselves on their profiles, their pages. And then just making sure that it's the right pixel down here once you've set it up, and then Facebook's quite helpful most of the time, and it will tell you if something is missing, so it will then allow you to correct it in order to get your ads live. So there's quite a lot of information there. A lot of it is playing around with it and seeing what works. As I say, like then if something is not working functionally, Facebook should give you a little alert. And if it's not working in terms of commercials or engagement, then you go back to the actual delivery numbers, as we looked up front. And see if something needs to tweak, or indeed, as I say, just turn off the ads or whole ad sets that are not working so well. So that's covered a lot. This is the other area just to keep an eye on, is the insights page. So this is within your profile page itself, and just saying, also just track your engagement generally. Will give you, both an overall stat, and just keep an eye on the data range, and it will also give you a comparison on the previous period. But you can kick out reports on any of this, and look in more detail. But generally, the areas that are most interesting, are the posts themselves. So actually, you've got a preview of that on this page. So this bar, is the key, combined with these two. So that's how many people are seeing your content, and then how many people are responding. And if you are doing paid activity, that will then allow you to see the difference between the organic and the paid. And then the other thing to keep an eye on is people. So just who are the people that you've got on your page? How can you then learn from who these demographics are in order to optimize your targeting, in order to maybe kind of share content with them that's relevant. So out of interest on this page, actually the biggest communities are Italy and the US. So actually, if we wanted to do a paid campaign, doing an Italian version and translating for the Italian market, could be a smart thing to do. This is another link that I'm going to share, which is just about how to create a chatbot. And again, you'll need a third-party piece of software, but they are simple to use, and a lot of them are free, for entry-level requirements. And then I believe that's it. Just go back to my list. So one more thing is there is an alternate view for your campaigns, your activity that combines Instagram and Facebook. So if you are doing activity on both channels, Facebook Creator Studio is open to everyone, and just allows you literally to select. Well, there's an issue there, of course. But yeah, actually, will bring up your whole content library. It will bring up, all the posts that you have made. It will bring up your ads, and it will give you overall insights, into how those are doing. So again, it's just an alternate viewpoint on performance across platforms. Actually, yeah, the simplest thing is to do it is to view within Facebook Ads Manager. Good. All right. Yeah, as I say, that was a lot of information. Thank you, Jonathan Cooper, yourself. Thanks for your time and attention. Yeah, any specific questions that have come out of that? Anything that was particularly confusing, or indeed that I didn't cover at all? Good. Okay. Let's just check what we've got next week. Next week, we're going to combine YouTube and Pinterest, so content-led marketing. But yeah, as I say, feedback, any more questions, to Gillian, to LAPADA, or you can save them up for next week. But yeah, look forward to hearing about how you get on. As I say, we'll have more of a wash-up discussion at the end of our webinar series. Yeah, thanks very much. Great, thanks for that message, Roman. Yeah, I'll drop you an email. So the Facebook catalog. So that's a good point. So the Facebook catalog is the same as creating the Facebook shop. So once you've created the Facebook shop, that should create the catalog that you can pull in. But I will find a specific link around that as well to share. Cool. Thanks, everyone. See you next.